Now, when speaking about clean and unclean eating, understanding Peter's vision on clean and unclean is monumental. Grand Rising, beloved, you've happened upon the curious treasures of Yahweh, and I'm your sister Renee, and I bid you all an absolutely wonderful Sabbath. Are we guilty of only listening to isolated Bible verses, same as the Jews were guilty of listening to the Pharisees and not directly from the Word who was there in the beginning? Without considering full context, you not only can be misled, you will be misled. It is imperative to follow the example of the people in Acts 17:11, who studied the scriptures daily to verify what they heard, even though it came by way of the apostles. It's a challenge many of us face today, especially those who frequent the church congregations after hearing a sermon on Sunday, but not delving into the Word independently to verify if what they were taught or what they heard was biblically sound or just sounded good. Now in the Torah, Yahua gave his chosen people, through his laws and commandments, a clear guide for living in peace, respect, and harmony. These instructions covered everything from worship and morality to fairness in relationships, marriage, and in health. Now, while Yah didn't specifically mention diseases like cancer, he made it clear what was clean and unclean, setting guidelines for healthy living and a stress-free lifestyle. Now, in ancient times, people were often classified as either clean or unclean. For instance, a woman during her menstruation was considered unclean for 7 days, and anyone who touched her or anything that she sat on would be considered unclean until the day was over. Personal hygiene and cleanliness were highly emphasized, which is why people had to go outside the camp to relieve themselves. They had to dig a hole to maintain cleanliness. This focus on purity also extended to dietary practices, such as avoiding unclean animals, which were believed to bring internal uncleanliness. The pig, which does not sweat, is considered an unclean animal according to these principles. When speaking about clean and unclean eating, understanding Peter's vision, which is a lesson on clean and unclean, is monumental. In the church, many leaders read these passages to show that we're free to ignore the law and eat whatever we want. Paul said, do not judge, right? So let's fast forward to the book of Acts. Many still misunderstand the contextual messages of Acts 10:13 through 15. You know, sometimes we hear what we want to hear, and that's enough. We don't care to verify without bias. In this passage, though, Peter has a vision while praying. He sees a sheet filled with all kinds of animals, clean and unclean, coming down from heaven. A voice tells Peter to get up, kill, and eat, but he refuses, stating that I have never eaten anything unclean, because he adhered to the teachings of the Torah, which distinguished clean animals from unclean ones. Now this voice goes further to tell him, do not call anything impure or unclean that the Most High God created. Now this is pertinent to note that Peter's vision wasn't solely about food. It was more importantly about people. At that time, Jews didn't associate with non-Jews, whom they called Gentiles. All other nations were like spit in a bucket to the Creator because of their idolatrous customs. This becomes understood through a man named Cornelius, who happened to be a Gentile, but he was a devout man who feared, prayed to, and gave alms in reverence to the Most High. So much that Yahua purposed Cornelius to send for Peter. And Peter too learned from this, in that Yah does not have respect of persons, although he did have respect for his children Israel due to his covenant with their forefathers. He didn't look down on anyone due to their status, though. As Peter and Cornelius meet, Cornelius bows down to Peter. But Peter instructs him to get up and not do that because he is merely a man. Now, this can be found in Acts 10:26 through 28. The moral of this part of history is that Peter learns a valuable lesson, which is not to call any man, any person, or anyone common or unclean that the Most High made. Nothing further is said about eating, okay, from the blanket of all the different animals that came down from heaven. So we know it's about humans. And this moment changed the course of history, revealing that salvation through Yeshua or Christ is for all people, not just the children of Israel who he initially came for. Whether Jew or Gentile, those who follow the commands, believes in Yeshua, and seeks righteousness can be saved. The misunderstanding of clean and unclean foods, some argue that Peter's vision allows them to eat whatever their hearts desires, regardless of cleanliness. But the Bible, beloved, it does not contradict itself. The Torah still holds wisdom for us today. The Torah is like a teacher in school who teaches the alphabets. Once you learn them, you learn to make the sounds that they make, and then you put the letters together, okay, and then you make words, and then you speak. Consider the swine, pigs. They eat anything, including other dead animals, body parts, and fecal waste. Similarly, sea creatures like shrimp, crab, lobsters, catfish, they're bottom feeders, scavenging on the waste of the ocean floor. Yah warns against eating these animals because it's not just about health risks, but also maintaining spiritual purity. The Torah's instructions on clean and unclean foods are part of a holistic approach, okay, to living a righteous, healthy life. Eating unclean animals can defile not only the body, but also the spirit. Science even shows that the things you eat can influence your risk of heart disease, of strokes, even type 2 diabetes. Yahua shouldn't have to say, don't eat it, you might get cancer. And additionally, food may communicate with our genome, affecting health, physiology, and longevity. Now, why do we ignore these warnings? It's only after a health crisis, terminal diagnosis that, make people finally begin to question their diet. But Yahuwah gave us these instructions thousands of years ago in order to protect us from harm, not to be a control freak. Apostle Paul also addresses this in Romans 14, urging to believers not to judge one another based on food choices or fasting practices. These were people being obedient. Whether we choose to observe the Sabbath or abstain from certain foods is all about doing it for Yahuwah and giving thanks to him. If we're eating unclean food, how is that giving thanks to the Creator when it's actually contrary? It's against what he tells you. So clearly these people were adhering to his instructions. Many professed Christians will still continue to follow after a lawless sermon rather than the word of Yahuwah. But look at how he feels about people such as this. Isaiah 66:17 reads, "They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens," or in the church, "behind one tree, in the midst of eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord." This is the true reason you are taught that the First Testament is not necessary, so you'll stay ignorant and separated from a holy God, but believe you're in good standings, and all you need to do is just believe in Jesus. The call to study and obey Yahuwah's word is now, beloved. It's time to get back to the basics, just as the people in Acts 17:11 did. They didn't just, take things for face value or just go with each and everything they heard. They searched the scriptures daily. It didn't matter who it came from. We too should be diligent in our study of the word and not just rely on what we hear going to church on Sundays. We're putting all of our trust in men. Scriptures warn us against that though. In Psalms 146:3, it says, "Put not your trust in princes, nor the Son of Man, in whom there is no hope." The Son of Man means human beings in this context, not the Son of Man, Yeshua. Understanding the full context of Scripture is pertinent, like the difference between clean and unclean foods. That can have a profound impact on our lives and our spiritual growth. If you're ready to dive in deeper into the Word and learn more about Yahuwah's instructions for living, and subscribe to the channel and join the family. Together we can explore the depths of Scripture and uncover the timeless wisdom that Yahuwah has given us to live healthier, holier lives. Join the discussion. Do you rely and trust solely on what you heard from others, from your leaders, your pastors, your priests? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't, check out this video on healthy lifestyles of the rich and healthy. Until next time, blessings to you and your family. Bye.